What's going on, guys? This is the Experienced Optimist, and today I wanted to talk about something that a fellow MGTOW collaborator did. What he did was he saw the attack on free speech that was going on with MGTOW channels, and he compiled all the MGTOW channels that there are currently, and he put it on like this website. I'm gonna put some links in the description. And I thought it was a great show of male camaraderie and male unity. And I wanted men to see this because this guy didn't have to do it. There's also Happy Humble Hermit also did something like that. I think there's a website on the Discord server. He just came out with a video today about that. That's pretty cool. But today we're going to focus on Zeitgeist Eater, man. This dude's real cool. I emailed him and I was trying to figure out like where his mind was at, like why'd he do it? Because I mean, this took a lot of time and he really didn't have to do it. And I asked him some questions and he gave me some pretty interesting answers. I wanted to have him on to kind of do an interview, but he couldn't do it. So I emailed him over some questions and he answered the questions, and I really like the responses. And I really want you guys to go over there and check out the links. He has all your favorites on there. TFM, Sandman, all those guys. He has my channel on there. He has John Nada on there. Thinking Man's Templar, Black Ram 313. He has the Man with One Eye. He has him over there, man. I think he has everybody over there. So just go out over there, check out the links. But I want to get into these questions that I asked him as well. So one of the first questions I asked him was, why did you create the MGTOW Mirror? That's the name of the project. Why did you create the MGTOW Mirror, given the hard work required in terms of the tireless application of editing, facing the pushback from societal pressures? And, why'd you do that where you could have abandoned MGTOW altogether? And he answered, he said, let me scroll down here. He said, 17 years of contempt regarding the infringement of fundamental liberties likely has something to do with it. Men with box cutters on airplanes are not frightening to me. I watch with absolute disgust and contempt as Americans and the world thereafter rolled over as though dead when it came in defense of personal liberty. Any respect I had for the law and lawyers ended when their collective response to the constitutional violations were, "That's an interesting interpretation." It was using as an excuse to suspend the right to legal counsel, the right to a public trial, and even Switzerland caved when it came to the privacy of account holders using Swiss banks. This infringement was so pronounced that the historic Swiss banks picked up and relocated to Singapore. And though there were some recalibration in regard to the suspension of freedoms, many of the infringements still exist under a different name, agency, or both. I recall a friend who was officially a member of the Republican Party, and this is not a slide on the Republican Party, and you'll see in a minute. He openly supported the torture of foreigners. When I pressed him on the incompatibilities and dangers therein, he shrugged and smiled. We've known each other for quite some time, and the implicit meaning whenever he did that was, he knew he was logically wrong, but didn't care because the power benefited him. If some software and sweat can protect the most sacred of fundamental liberties from the poor stewardship of millions, that seems like a high payoff for the investment. Okay, so that was number one. So then I asked them a second question, and let me scroll back up here so I can see. I asked him, I also noticed, this is for the MGTOW Mirror, the compilation of the MGTOW channels. I also noticed that you did not pick and choose content creators, where if it were up to others, I'm sure some would exclude some content creators based on left-leaning or right-leaning considerations. In this regard, it would appear that free speech is very important to you. Did you take free speech into consideration when constructing the MGTOW Mirror? And he answered, yes. In some ways, there was a minimization of the importance of freedom of speech. The defense of it cannot be limited to shooting fireworks once a year or posting a thumbnail of the U.S. Constitution when social media monopolies develop a bias. If the right to speak freely is lost or inhibited, it threatens our ability to establish new liberties or defend existing ones. If all liberties were forfeit, spare one, I would seek to spare freedom of speech. If the candle can remain lit for the most sacred of liberties, then there remains hope for the restoration of the others. Through this lens, it almost makes left or right political leanings seem like a petty affair, not to mention a distraction from the issues. There are some on the political left who oppose global spy agencies and unaudited fiat money supplies, just as on the right. Even Austrian economists flew under the name liberal prior to the term being co-opted. In the time period I'm referencing, liberal translated to defense of liberty. Liberals have since deviated from the defense of liberty about as far as the conservatives who no longer conserve. So that was the second question and answer, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I asked him one more question, and I asked him this. I said, finally, I find your philosophical approach to MGTOW to be quite intriguing. Though some may think that you're challenging the MGTOW philosophy, I think that your synopsis is akin to the rigorous analytics that may have taken place during early philosophical discussions of the past. What prompted you to take such a critical look at the MGTOW philosophy in general? And he wrote, let me scroll down here. Let me see. Let me find it. Let me find it. And he wrote, I was late to knowing that MGTOW existed. I had some puzzle pieces already solved prior to coming into contact, e.g., if women and men are the same, then why do women overwhelmingly invade existing companies rather than building new ones? And when finding the MGTOW repository on YouTube, it led me to an immediate acceleration of my understanding of what was going on and to what scale. Naturally, I was thankful to the authors and people who put efforts into the mirroring content. For example, I found MGTOW through a mirrored video. My initial disposition was to fill in the gaps I saw in the narrative and be quiet about potential conflicts. I wanted to make sure I had enough information before opening my mouth with potential inconsistencies. It was at least 2 years of listening to content and at least 1 year of mirroring it before I felt competent enough to challenge the possible inconsistencies. A combination of inconsistent behavior from the authors and a failure to respond to open questions I had posted to them in comments/emails brought things to a head. I'll include some questions I posed, some observed behaviors without the names. And then he goes on to give some examples, And I thought this was pretty interesting because what he's doing is he's trying to create more of an open dialogue amongst MGTOW people and challenging the MGTOW philosophy in a way that's not derogatory or trying to break down men like you'll see other people call MGTOW losers and all this stuff, but just trying to insert, differing opinions so that MGTOWs can discuss it, talk about it, and, complement each other and come to a better understanding of the MGTOW philosophy. So I really appreciate Zeitgeist Eater for creating the MGTOW Mirror. The links will be in the description, like I said before, and really trying to help men out, really trying to contribute and bring men together and unite us like other guys are doing in the MGTOW sphere, especially at a time when you might see a little bit of conflict between the MGTOWs. It's just a breath of fresh air seeing something like this, and I think you guys will really appreciate it. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support other MGTOW channels, and I will talk to you later.